Making a trace with the ControlHub Tracer is really simple. Let me show you how to do it. For this first example, let's talk about mix bus. I have a hardware chain here of an SSL style compressor into a pair of Clariphonics that I love to strap on my mix bus or my instrument bus, but there are always other places in my mix that I would like to use it on, maybe a drum bus or maybe a guitar bus even. So if I make a trace of it, I'll be able to use it in other places across my mix, even when the hardware is physically tied up on the overall mix bus. So here's what the track sounds like without the hardware on it. And then here's with the hardware. So definitely a little louder, but a lot more punch and definitely brighter because of the Clariphonics. So let's go ahead and make a trace. So first things first, I'm going to load a new instance of ControlHub, and you'll see in the left-hand column, there is the tracer icon. You're gonna click that. And in this case, we're gonna pick a complete signal chain. We will make a compressor trace later on as well. So you click that button, and we're going to first locate the tracer tone. This locates the tracer tone that you're going to need to drag into your session to run a trace. So I import that tone and I'm going to drag it up onto the track that has the signal chain that I want to trace. For now, I'm going to remove this instance of ControlHub because we do not need that anymore. Before we run the tracer tone through our hardware chain, we just want to make sure that our overall output level is going to be something that the tracer is going to accept and be able to work with. So let's go ahead and check out what we're working with. And this is actually, it's a little hot. I would say that this needs to be, maybe we'll drop the fader to 4 dB. I've found that anywhere between -6 and -10 peaking is a good place to start when you're making a trace. That should be plenty of headroom for the tracer to work. So we're going to select the tracer tone so that what we're printing and bouncing is the exact length of the tracer tone itself. We're going to right click and bounce out. We're gonna name this Mix Bus Hardware. And we're going to make sure that this is an online real-time bounce because we're doing hardware. Also, just make sure that you're printing at the same bit depth and sample rate as your session. And then we can click bounce. And you'll hear the tracer tone going. And it's just, it's a series of random sounding noises that are like space noises. And essentially what it's doing is it's going through your signal chain, and your signal chain is coloring and shaping the tone of all of these sweeps that are very full spectrum. And the tracer is going to be able to extract that information out and turn that into a trace within ControlHub. All right, now that the tracer tone has run through the hardware chain, I'm gonna set up Pro Tools to do an A/B test and to make the trace. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to duplicate this track with just the audio on it. I don't need the hardware chain on this. I'm going to load in a new instance of ControlHub. We're gonna go back to the tracer. We're doing a complete signal chain trace. I'm going to import. So what we're doing here is we're just going to select the wave file that we just bounced out. That is the tracer tone going through our signal chain. We're going to open this up into ControlHub, and this is going to just analyze the audio and make sure that you're in a range that you have enough headroom for the tracer to work. Tracing levels are good. It has 4.5 dB of headroom, so it's great. We're gonna proceed, and we're going to click Trace Stereo because this is a stereo trace. We have a stereo signal chain happening. So trace, and I'm gonna let this work in real time. So again, what this is doing is it's looking at that tracer tone and comparing that to the unprocessed tracer tone and extracting what the difference is, and is training each of these modules to act like your signal chain. So yeah, it's really fast. As you can see, it's almost done. There it goes. So that was 30 seconds, maybe. I was not looking at the time, but unreal. Let's go ahead and I'm going to mute ControlHub, and we're going to switch in between the hardware chain and ControlHub and see how the tracer did. I mean, it does such a good job. It really, really captures exactly what this hardware is doing. Let's bypass ControlHub and just hear what we started with. And it's just amazing. Okay, so let's click save. We'll create a new trace. We're gonna make a new folder, and we'll go ahead and call this Tracer Tests. We'll name this Mixbus Hardware, and we're gonna put this under the Mixbus Master category. The color is, I'm gonna say Dione medium THD. Compression is the Dione. The master EQ I'll say is the Clariphonic. And there you go. You save it, and now you have a trace. And yeah, it's just as fast as that. Say you wanted to go in and make a couple changes to it now, you could go ahead and just, hit play. And if those are the changes you wanted to make, you could go into this Tracer presets window, and right here is Save Current Preset. So if you click that, and if we go to another setting, and we go back to this, you'll see that it recalls that EQ move. I'm gonna go ahead and save over that because I don't think that was the right move. So at this point, I am super stoked with how that trace turned out. And I think it'd be really cool to share with everybody that has ControlHub. And I can do that within ControlHub now. So I can click on this preset, I can just right click, and I can say upload to Tone Exchange. If I click that, it's gonna say uploading, and the trace has been uploaded successfully. So let's talk about Tone Exchange. If you go down here, you click on Tone Exchange, and you can already see that there are a bunch of presets made by a bunch of different people. I've done a couple different ones. I have my 1176s, all buttons in, just like a good crush mode, good for vocals, good for drum bus. I have distressors. There's other stuff. There's mastering presets made by people. You even have male clean vocals. A lot of cool stuff, and this is just gonna be an ever-growing list of things. So cool features are, so this is me, Just Enable Audio. If you click on my name, that's gonna pull up all of the traces that I've uploaded to Tone Exchange, and so it's a really fast way of finding, finding your friends' presets. We'll see, here's Sunny True Love. If you don't know, Sunny is STL tones. So here's the presets that he has made. And so you can go and really easily just download these. You're just going to choose the folder that you want to download them in. So maybe I'll make a new folder called Tone Exchange. And then I'm going to press save. And just like that, if I go into my Tracer presets, click Tone Exchange, now I have that preset that Sunny made across the world. That sounds insane. Thank you, Sunny. That's awesome. So Tone Exchange makes ControlHub really collaborative, and it can be just a really exciting way of, maybe you're mixing, and I think to myself, man, it would be really cool if I could have a trace of X piece of gear that I don't have. It's like, I don't have this plugin, this UAD Culture Vulture. And so I could type in Culture and then it'll come up. Oh, there is a Culture Vulture, great. And I can download it and try it. And I can tuck that one into my collection of Tone Exchange presets. So yeah, it makes me incredibly excited to have Tone Exchange as an ever-growing list of presets made by everybody. And I think it's gonna be a really cool resource for you. All right, now let's do some traces for drums. Here I have a kick-in mic and a snare top mic, and just basic plug-in signal chains. So this is what they sound like without plugins, and with plugins. So let's go ahead and make a trace for the kick first. So I'm going to go over to this bar. Since I've already located the tracer tone, I have it already inside of my session. I'm gonna pull it over. I can delete one side of the tracer tone because we're doing a mono trace, so we only need the left side. And I'm going to, once again, on this master track, I'm just gonna check my output level and make sure that I'm not going to be clipping going out. So yeah, you can see that we have plenty of headroom, so we're going to go ahead and print out our tracer tone through our chain. We'll call this kick in cleanup. And this time we're gonna be able to do an offline bounce because this is plugins. Here we go. All right, now that's done bouncing, just like the last example, we're going to set up Pro Tools to make the trace and also do an A/B. So I duplicated the track. I'm going to, on the new track, have an instance of ControlHub. We're going to go to the tracer. We're going to do complete signal chain trace again, and we're going to import that file that we just printed. We have kick in cleanup. Cool, and yeah, we have plenty of headroom. Let's go ahead and trace mono. And from now on in the video, I'm going to speed up this process just for sake of time. All right, and tracing's complete. Let's go ahead and A/B our original chain versus ControlHub. Here's starting with the original chain. ControlHub. Yeah, I mean, you can switch between those and it's pretty seamless. So once again, before you click save, you can do any changes you'd like to these modules and it'll save into the preset. Or if you click save right here and you go through this process, you'll be able to see the graphic EQ and be able to utilize ControlHub to its fullest potential. So let's go ahead and make this trace really quick. And as you can see, now we have access to go in, use ControlHub to its fullest extent. And once again, if you wanted to go in and edit the preset and then save it, you would just click right here. And then just like that, it saved over. And so now if I go to a different preset and then recall it again, you'll see that that EQ move got saved. Another option in the Tracer presets menu is this Save As button, and it works just how you would think. So, you know, once again, we'll just do a crazy EQ move so it's easy to see. And I'll do Save As, and I'll say Kick Crazy. And so now you see that I have Kick Crazy, that if I go to, but then if I go back to Kick in Cleanup, the EQ isn't touched. So really cool way to just have multiple versions of similar traces that, you know, maybe in one mix it just works better to change the EQ a little bit and you want to make a trace of it. Very easy to do. Okay, onto the snare. So here is the snare once again. Without plugins. Let's go ahead and check and make sure that our levels are going to be good. Yeah, and once again, we have tons of headroom. The tracer is going to be very happy with that. So I'm just going to drag the tracer tone down onto this track, make sure it's selected, and we're going to bounce out. I'm going to call this snare top cleanup. All right, and once that bounce is done, once again, we're going to duplicate this track and put a new instance of ControlHub on it. We'll click Tracer. Once again, complete signal chain. We're going to press Import, and we'll find this file that we just bounced out. Boom, tons of headroom. I'm going to proceed, trace mono. All right, and tracing's complete. Let's go ahead and compare the original chain first, and then we'll hear ControlHub. It is just so good right off the bat. I mean, in a blind test, I couldn't pick it out, so we're gonna go ahead and save that one. Okay, now that we have made a kick preset and a snare top preset, for fun, let's go ahead and just go in and we're going to A/B the original signal chain versus ControlHub on both. So here, we're gonna start by hearing the original signal chain. Yeah, I mean, they sound identical. I could not pick that out in a blind test. Really, really excellent. Okay, next let's make some stereo traces for overheads and rooms. So here are my overheads without any plugins on. With them. So substantial amount of heavy lifting happening. You can even see I'm using a ControlHub on this. So let's go ahead and grab the tracer tone over here. And once again, just check our levels on our master track. Tons of headroom. So let's go ahead and bounce out. We're going to call this overhead crispy. And once again, we can do this offline because it's all plugins, so it makes the process super quick. All right, now that the bounce is done, once again, we're going to duplicate our track, have a new instance of ControlHub. We're gonna go to the tracer, complete signal chain. By this point, I think you guys get the idea. We're going to select overhead crispy and let the tracer analyze it. And once again, have tons of headroom, all good. We're gonna proceed and we're going to trace stereo. All right, tracing complete. So now let's go ahead and select both of these tracks. So we'll have a good loop. And we're gonna start with the original signal chain and then we'll move down to ControlHub. Man, once again, it just nailed it. It's so close. I feel like maybe it's just slightly quiet. Man, yeah, but down to the compression, bringing out the attack of the snare drum, it is, I mean, it's spot on. It is so good. All right, and this is a good example on how you can edit these labels up top, even after the fact, after you've made the preset. Say, you forgot to add in the right compression type. You can see I didn't do it. So let's go ahead and we're gonna say edit preset info after right-clicking the preset. And you can see that I can, after the fact, go in and the compression is the townhouse. And so I can do that. Master EQ, I'll just call the Pro Q. And then I'll click save. And now you can see that they correctly represent what we traced. All right, now let's make a trace for stereo rooms. So here's what my room mics sound like without plugins. And with. So yeah, very aggressive compression happening and yeah, quite a bit of EQ darkening them as well. So let's go ahead and we're gonna drag the tracer tone down and we will run it through the chain. Okay, now that the bounce is done, we're going to duplicate the room track and put a new instance of ControlHub on. Go to the tracer, complete signal chain, import. We're going to find rooms beefy. Let ControlHub do its thing. All right, we have tons of headroom. Gonna proceed and trace stereo. All right, tracing is complete. So let's go ahead and we'll hear the original chain and then ControlHub. It is just, it's so good. I mean, yeah, it sounds freaking identical. The one thing I'll say, this is a good excuse to talk about this. So in my original signal chain, I have this compressor and you can see that I have it set to dual mono. What this means is that each side, the left and the right side of the compressor are acting independently from each other. So say, the drummer hits the rack tom and it's heavier in the left-hand side of the compressor, it's going to pull down the left-hand side of the compression, independent from the right-hand side. So it's gonna do this. Rather than, if you have linked compression, which ControlHub has right now, if you see, both the left and right are getting turned down at the exact same amount at all times. So if you go down here to the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a link, and it's at 100%. And if you drag this down, you can see it's a variable percentage, which is really cool. I'm gonna drag this all the way to 0, and now watch the compressor. So you can see that the snare is a little bit heavier in the left-hand side, and so it's pulling down the left-hand side a little bit more aggressively than the right. That's much more accurately representing what this compressor is doing. So now let's hear that. Yeah, I mean, it sounds so good. We're just gonna save that. All right, now let's do an example for drum bus. So on drum bus, I really love using distressors, but as you can see, I only have one distressor. So ControlHub makes that awesome because I can make a trace of this one distressor and put it on my drum bus, and now I essentially have stereo distressors. Really cool. We're going to do a more intricate version of a trace for this that really excites me. I'll show you what I mean. So first we're going to break this into mono because I only have one distressor. We're just gonna use the left side of this drum bus for our example. And this insert right here is our distressor. So yeah, I really like 20:1 on drum bus. It's really explosive and exciting and adds a ton of attack to your drums. So one other thing is that I usually use the detector circuit and one of the distortion modes on drums. However, in this case, I want to do a compressor trace to just train the ControlHub compressor to behave just like the compressor in the distressor. So I'm gonna use the exact same tracer tone, and I'm gonna run it out just the same as the others. I'm gonna say distressor 20:1. Okay, and now that that's done bouncing, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that and do a new instance of ControlHub. So for a compressor trace, the process is really similar. All you do is you click compressor, and you see that there's some guidelines right here on just how to set your compressor if you're trying to get the absolute best results out of ControlHub. Go ahead and follow these guidelines. The really important stuff is that, again, no digital clipping and making sure that you have plenty of headroom to allow the tracer to function well. For this instance, I'm doing 20:1, which it says to do 4:1 ratio. Both work, but yeah, just figured I would say that. So we're gonna go to import, and I'm gonna go to distressor 20:1, and it's gonna analyze that audio. All right, tracing levels are good. So let's proceed. We're going to trace mono because I only have one distressor. It's a mono signal. Okay, now the tracing is complete, so I'm going to select both of these. Okay, and first we're gonna hear the distressor, and then we'll hear ControlHub. Yeah, if you can tell the difference on that, I'm impressed. That sounds so good. So yeah, let's go ahead and just save that. And I'm gonna put this under JWA compressors, and we're gonna just name this distressor 20:1. I'm gonna save. All right, now we can see that we trained the ControlHub compressor to behave just like a distressor. You can see right here in this little box, this is an awesome feature in ControlHub. So you have the FET compressor and the VCA compressor that has always been built in, and then you can see my tracer compressors, JWA compressors, and you can see that I've done my Dione, and I've done a bunch of different versions of my distressor. And here's the 20:1 distressor that we just made. So a really cool way of using this to your advantage would be to go into an artist pack. For this example, I'll do this because I love the way this sounds. F-Reed Shippin' Fairchild tone. So yeah, it's just like the warmth and the tubes from a Fairchild without the compression. So let's listen to what that sounds like. So yeah, just adds so much goodness to drums. Really, really love that. And you can see that you can go down to my tracer compressors and get that distressor trace that we just made. Now within this preset, we essentially have a hardware Fairchild with the hardware distressor compression circuit put inside of it, which is just so cool. The possibilities are honestly endless, and it makes me super excited. So back to tracing. So now that we have the compression dialed in from the distressor, let's go ahead and capture what the harmonic saturation of the distressor sounds like. So I'm going to go 1-to-1 so that we're not getting any gain reduction. And I'm going to do all of the detector buttons in, and then I'm gonna go distortion 3 because I really like how that sounds. So yeah, you can hear that it's just kind of like shaving transients off in a really cool way. So now we're gonna run the tracer tone one more time, and we'll call this all detector in, dist 3. All right, now that that bounce is done, we're gonna load a new instance of ControlHub, go to the tracer, and this time we're going to do the complete signal chain because that's going to be capturing the harmonic character of what the distressor was doing. And we're gonna click import, and we have all detector in, distortion 3. All right, tracing levels are good. Let's proceed, and we're gonna trace mono once again. All right, tracing is complete, so let's go ahead. We'll hear the distressor first, and then we'll hear ControlHub. Yeah, I mean, that sounds so good. So I think you probably already see what I'm gonna do, but let's go ahead and go through it. So if we go ahead and make a new preset, and we call this distressor all detector in, and we have distortion 3. We're gonna go to individual models because we're just doing a really good capture of the distressor. I'm gonna say distressor, no compression, no master EQ. So we're gonna save it. So now we have this preset, and you can see it inside of our tracer tests. And if we go into the dynamics section and go to our compressors, we can load in the 20-to-1 compressor trace that we just made, and we have an incredibly accurately modeled distressor. So we can go ahead and dial this in. I'm gonna change my hardware to 20-to-1, and this is what that sounds like. And we go back to ControlHub. We just need to lower the threshold now. It just sounds so good. So now you can go in and you can click Save As, and we can do distressor 20-to-1 dist 3. So there you go. So now you can have the option of loading in with the compression circuit and have, you know, the full distressor character and compression running, or you can load in just the harmonic saturation of the distressor and have that flavor in your mix. So really awesome, really great functionality of ControlHub. So now the moment that we've all been waiting for, we can go back up to our stereo drum bus. We can load a new instance of ControlHub, go to our tracer presets, and load in 20-to-1 distortion 3. And I'm gonna unlink the compressors so they're acting dual mono. And yeah, I mean, it sounds incredible. I'm excited to see what you do with this. And for this next example, let's do a trace for bass. So I have a very simple bass part right here. I'll bypass all the plugins on it, and this is what it sounds like. And here's with my chain. So yeah, you can hear, gets a little bit more ampy, a little bit of drive, and I think there's even some, yeah, there's some limiting going on from ControlHub. So let's go ahead and get the tracer tone in here, and we'll run the tracer tone through this bass chain. Clean up. All right, I'm gonna do an offline bounce. Okay, now that the bounce is done, we're gonna, once again, duplicate our track so that we can make the trace. We're going to go into the tracer. We'll do a complete signal chain, import, and here's our file. All right, tracing levels are good, so we'll proceed and we'll trace mono, and we'll just let it work. All right, tracing is complete. Let's go ahead and compare original signal chain and then ControlHub. Okay, so really close. I just want to add a little bit more drive. And then I'm going to pop in the limiter because there was a limiter on my original signal chain. And when you're tracing and you have a limiter in your chain that you're tracing, the ControlHub limiter does not get programmed automatically. So that's just something that you're going to want to keep in mind and go ahead and put in there during this tweaking process. And yeah, just like that, you have a bass chain in one plugin. It is just awesome. All right, and for this next example, let's make a trace of an electric guitar bus. So I have an electric guitar bus stem right here. This is without processing. With processing. So yeah, a little bit of EQ going on just to tighten things up, and some overall compression and saturation just to make things sound big and exciting. So let's go ahead. We're gonna put the tracer tone in the session. We'll bounce out. We'll call this rhythm guitar bus cleanup. Okay, now that tracer tone has been run through that signal chain, once again, gonna duplicate the track. Have a new instance of ControlHub. By this point, you guys get the process, I'm sure. You're going to go into the tracer, going to click Complete Signal Chain, Import, find our rhythm guitar bus. All right, tracing levels are good, so we're going to proceed and we're going to trace stereo because this is a stereo signal chain. Okay, tracing is complete. We're gonna go ahead and hear the original signal chain first, and then we'll hear ControlHub. Yeah, I mean, yeah, once again, it is so good. If we go into the original compressor that I have on Guitar Bus, you'll see that I have the compressor 0% linked. So we are going to go down and we're going to match that setting in ControlHub, especially on something like Guitar Bus. I think that that's an important setting to change because, as you can see, when we get into the verse, it goes down to basically only the right side having audio in it. So let's go ahead and listen to that. So say I didn't unlink the compressors, and let's go ahead and link them again. You can see that they're both getting pulled down the same amount, which causes a really strange feeling that the quiet side is getting pulled down at the same time as the loud side. It feels pretty unnatural. So we're gonna go ahead and unlink those and save this preset. Sounds awesome. So now let's make a trace for acoustic guitar. I have a double-tracked acoustic right here that's just really strummy, meant for a chorus. So this is what it sounds like without plugins. And with them. So very extreme move. I'm carving a lot of EQ stuff. This is kind of meant to be a shaker acoustic, and then really just, punishing it pretty good. So yeah, let's go ahead and do a trace of this chain. Acoustic strummy. All right, now that the tracer tone has run through that chain, once again, I'm going to duplicate the track and load a new instance of ControlHub. Go to the tracer, we're gonna do a complete signal chain, import, and we have acoustic strummy. All right, tracing levels are good. Going to trace stereo. Okay, tracing is complete. Let's go ahead and compare the two. Okay, so this is really close. I can hear a slight EQ thing that I want to do. So let's go ahead and save this first. We're gonna call this Acoustic Strummy. And we're gonna put this under guitars, no color. Compression is CLA 76. The master EQ is Pro Q3. Okay, and now we can use the graphic mode just to do a little bit of cleanup. Yeah, I mean, that sounds perfect. And a really useful trace to have. I mean, I'm constantly doing shaker acoustics, and to be able to just pull up this trace, and in one plugin I can have a chain that works really well. Okay, now let's do a trace for keys. I have this cool lo-fi verby piano part right here. This is what it sounds like without plugins. With plugins. So yeah, just doing a little bit of lo-fiing with Pro Q, and yeah, just some very soft, slow compression. And I have, yeah, very heavy reverb happening. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn off the reverb while we're running the tracer tone through the chain, because the ControlHub Tracer is not going to trace reverb. We're gonna add that after the fact, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. So yeah, turn off all wet effects before you run through the tracer. Go ahead and name. Okay, now that that is done printing through my chain, let's go ahead and load a new track with ControlHub. Go to the tracer, complete signal chain, import, piano lo-fi squeeze. And this is going to be a really cool example to show how well ControlHub can EQ match. Very extreme EQ moves, like a lo-fi effect. So here is proceed. Trace stereo. Okay, now that the trace is complete, let's go ahead and hear the original signal chain and then ControlHub. Yeah, I mean, this one is... Yeah, this one is identical. Okay, so now let's pop in, we'll pop in my original reverb again, just so that we can reference it and remember what it sounds like. And we're gonna go over to the effects section of ControlHub and turn on the reverb. We definitely want a longer reverb. Let's do long. Yeah, and there you go. Once again, really did a great job of capturing that extreme EQ move, and it's so easy to dial in really good sounding reverbs and delays within ControlHub. If you haven't messed with the delay or reverb section of ControlHub, I really recommend you do. There are a bunch of different units and so many different presets of plates and rooms, anything that you could want. And it sounds really incredible. So I definitely recommend you checking it out. And now when we save this preset, the effects and all of the small changes we did will be included within this preset. All right, and for these next examples, we're gonna move on to doing some vocal traces. So for this first example, I wanted to do kind of just a tracking chain, just a basic kind of clean up EQ a little bit and also compress. So have just a really basic EQ going on.
I just want you happy.
And I have a hardware insert of this 1176 just to control the vocal a little bit. Here's without.
I hate that I just want you happy.
With it.
I hate that I just want you happy.
So yeah, really just controlling things, and yeah, I really like the tone that the 1176 adds too. So let's go ahead and trace it. We're gonna pull in the tracer tone, and then we'll print out through it. We're gonna call this Pro Q 1176. Okay, now that we ran the tracer tone through, we'll duplicate the vocal, get a new instance of ControlHub. We have the tracer, doing a complete signal chain, import, do the file we just made. All right, tracing levels are good, so we'll proceed. Trace mono. All right, now the tracing's complete. Let's go ahead and hear the original chain versus ControlHub.
I hate that I just want you happy. I hate that I just want you happy. I hate that I just want you happy.
Yeah, I mean, come on, it sounds so good.
I hate that I just want you happy. I hate that I just want you happy. I hate that I just want you happy.
Yeah, there's no way I could pick those out in a blind test. I mean, it captures the harmonic character so well of analog gear. And once again, I mean, it nailed this EQ move, just tightening up the low end. And yeah, I mean, I could track through this trace and not think twice about it. It sounds so good. All right, let's go ahead and save that one. Yeah, I think that one turned out so good that I'm just gonna go ahead and throw it up on the Tone Exchange because I would want that preset. So go ahead and uploaded it to the Tone Exchange. Let's go ahead and just confirm. Once again, you can just click on my name and we'll see vocal tracking 1176. So cool. All right, for this next vocal example, I wanted to try a really extreme lo-fi vocal effect. So heavy EQ, a little bit of saturation, and incredibly heavy compression. So here's what it sounds like.
Is this best for me?
Here's without anything.
Is this best for me?
All right, let's do a trace of that. Okay, now that that is done printing, go ahead, duplicate our track. Open up a new instance of ControlHub. We'll import that Vox Lo-Fi we just made. All right, tracing's complete, so let's hear my original signal chain, and then we'll hear ControlHub.
Is this best for me? Is this best for me?
I mean, it nailed it.
Is this best for me?
Yeah, that is so cool. And the thought of being able to build up a bunch of different vocal lo-fi presets or just any kind of lo-fi. I mean, here, let's save this really quick and let's run something really different. Like we'll run drums through it and just see how it sounds. Okay, now we have that saved. Let's go ahead and just drag in that drum stem that we used earlier. Yeah, and right away you have a really cool lo-fi drum sound that you can obviously tweak, like maybe it sounds too compressed. So yeah, you could easily throw that on a drum bus and use that for a transition or something and have a really cool workable sound instantly, even though I didn't intend to make that for drums. So super cool. Okay, and for this last preset, I want to capture the harmonic color and a little bit of EQ from my 610 preamp. It's a tube preamp, so it has just like a really nice warmth to it, but the EQ adds, like you can add a lot of top end with this, and the body that comes from it is really nice. So we're just gonna use that same vocal from that last example. This is what it sounds like without it.
Is this best for me?
And here's with it.
Is this best for me?
All right, so let's go ahead and run the tracer tone through it. Okay, and we'll go ahead and call this LA 610 height. All right, now that that's done bouncing out, we're going to duplicate the track, do a new instance of ControlHub, tracer, complete signal chain. And we're gonna grab LA610 hyped. All right, tracing levels are good. We're gonna proceed with the trace. I think by this point you can see how quickly you can start building a database of your own traces and really unlock a whole new level of creativity within your productions. Whether you're tracing your own hardware or you're tracing plugins. I mean, really, the sky's the limit. Even tracing guitar pedals is really cool too, and is something that I need to do more of. So yeah, I'm excited to see what you're doing with it. Just like that, tracing's complete. Let's go ahead and listen to the difference.
Is this best for me? Is this best for me?
There's no way I could tell the difference in that. That is ridiculously cool. Yeah, let's go ahead and save it. So to wrap things up, now that we've made a bunch of presets, let's go ahead and just come over here and you can see inside of Tracer Test, these are all of the presets that we made together today. And yeah, this menu is really easy to navigate. I've kind of gone over it already, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys know how functional this left-hand side is. So, you know, you can right-click on the current preset that you have. You can move to different folders. You can show in Finder if you want to find the tracer file, and you could, you know, email it to a friend or whatever if you're not going to upload it to Tone Exchange. You can copy the settings and paste them into different presets. Really just a ton of options within this menu alone. And then just the same, you can go down to Tracer Compressors, you go down here and you can see all of your compressor traces and, you know, right click and you could just upload a compressor trace to the Tone Exchange as well. So yeah, really great functionality and works quickly along with your quick workflow. Thank you for watching this video on the ControlHub Tracer. Be sure to check out stltones.com to try it for yourself.